There's something strange about money that I've noticed after years of observing people. You can have a very clear financial plan. You know exactly how much money you have. You know how much you need to spend each month. You can even map out your future in pretty great detail. But then, when you actually start living with that money, things don't play out the way you expected. Not because your math was wrong, but because you're not a machine. And what's interesting is, most people don't realize this until they're already in that situation. Main idea 1. The problem isn't the numbers, it's how it feels to live with those numbers. I've realized something that a lot of people misunderstand about money. They think, if I calculate everything carefully, my financial life will be stable. Sounds logical. But here's the interesting part. A financial plan only works perfectly on paper. Once you actually start living it, everything changes. A simple example, someone might have a large amount of money saved. They know they only need to spend a certain amount each month to be fine long term. On paper, it looks solid, but in real life, every time they spend money, they feel a bit uncomfortable. Not because the amount is big, but because questions start popping up in their head. If I spend this, will it affect my future? Am I spending too much? Should I hold back a little more just to be safe? What most people don't realize is the feeling of spending money and the amount of money you have are two completely different things. You can have enough and still feel like it's not enough, not because you lack money, but because you lack certainty. And that is what slowly starts to push your financial life off track. Main idea 2. When money stops coming in, everything feels different. I've noticed a very clear shift in how people experience money, not when they earn more, but when the income stops. When you're still working, money has a unique quality. It comes back, you spend today, and a few weeks later, you get paid again. That creates a natural feeling. I can adjust later. But when that steady income disappears, every expense starts to feel different. For example, before, you might easily decide, let's go out this weekend and enjoy a nice meal. No big deal. But in a phase where money isn't coming in regularly, that same decision feels much heavier. You start thinking, do I really need this? What happens next month if I spend this? Should I cut back a bit? And here's the interesting part. It's not because you're poor, it's because you've lost the feeling that you can replace the money. What most people don't realize is, the thing that makes you feel safe isn't how much money you have, it's your ability to create more. And when that ability feels uncertain, every financial decision becomes heavier. And from there, your behavior starts to change. You spend less. You hesitate more. You become more cautious. Sounds good on the surface, but what's interesting is that small shift is often the beginning of much bigger changes later on. Main idea 3. Small adjustments. Quietly changing your entire financial direction. I've realized something that very few people notice. Most financial problems don't come from one big mistake. They come from many small adjustments, happening quietly over time. At first, everything feels reasonable. You tell yourself, I'm just being a bit more careful. For example, you keep a larger cash buffer than planned. You delay a spending decision. You temporarily switch to safer choices. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, it sounds smart. But here's what's interesting. These adjustments don't happen just once. They repeat. Every time you feel uncertain, you adjust a little more. Over time, you stop following your original plan. You start reacting to your emotions. What most people don't realize is, when you change direction too many times, you're no longer on a clear path. You're just avoiding risk, step by step. And the result? You don't lose money immediately, but you lose momentum. You lose consistency. You lose long-term advantage. Your finances don't collapse, but they slow down. And the most dangerous part is, you don't even notice it happening. Main idea 4. Decision fatigue. The invisible thing draining you. I've noticed something quite paradoxical. A lot of people don't have serious money problems, but they still feel mentally exhausted thinking about money. Not because they lack money, but because they have to make too many decisions. When you're still earning, things are simpler than you think. You spend, and income comes back. You don't need to optimize every decision, but when you're managing your own cash flow, everything changes. For example, what should I eat today? Order food or cook? Should I go out this weekend? Or save instead? Should I buy this now? Or wait until next month? Each question is small, but you have to answer them every day. And here's the interesting part. It's not the decisions themselves that exhaust you. It's the volume of them. What most people don't realize is every decision consumes mental energy. And when that energy drops, you choose the easiest option, delay. You stop deciding. You push things off. You delay withdrawals. You delay fixing things. You delay experiences, not because you don't have money, but because you don't want to think anymore. And over time, your life quietly shrinks. You still have money, but you live as if you don't. Main idea 6. When all financial responsibility falls on one person, everything becomes more fragile than you think. I've realized something very real. A lot of financial plans are built in a state where everything is fine. Two people share the responsibility. They discuss things together. They make decisions together. It feels stable. But here's the interesting part. Life rarely stays that way. There are moments when one person is no longer able to manage finances or simply isn't there anymore to make decisions. And suddenly, everything falls onto one person. A simple example. Someone who barely dealt with finances before now has to make every decision, from daily spending to bigger life choices. At the same time, they might be tired, stressed, or just unfamiliar with it all. What most people don't realize is good decision-making doesn't just come from knowledge. It comes from your mental state. When you don't have enough mental bandwidth, you go for the simplest option. You decide faster. You think less. Or you trust things that sound easy. And that's when risk starts to appear. Not because you don't understand money, but because you're handling too much at once. And in that state, even a small decision can have a very big impact. Main idea 7. Financial plans are built for a stable life. But real life isn't like that. I've realized something that many people overlook. Most financial plans are built on one silent assumption that things won't change much. You stay in the same place. Your spending stays fairly consistent. Life moves in a steady rhythm. Sounds reasonable. But here's the reality. Life rarely works that way. For example, you think you'll stay in one place long term, but a few years later, circumstances change, and you have to move. You expect your expenses to go down over time, but new costs show up instead. You think you'll follow your spending plan, but then situations come up where you simply have to spend. What most people don't realize is the problem isn't that the plan is wrong, it's that life doesn't stay still. And when things change, you don't just adjust once, you adjust over and over again. This creates a unique kind of pressure. You no longer feel like you're in control. You feel like you're just trying to keep up. And if your plan doesn't have enough flexibility, every small change turns into a bigger problem, not because it's huge, but because you don't have much room to adapt. Main idea 8. One of the most common mistakes, having money but being afraid to use it. I've noticed something really interesting. There's a group of people who, from the outside, look completely fine financially. They have money, they have a plan, they're prepared, but the way they live doesn't reflect that at all. For example, they want to travel, but always say later. They want to upgrade their lifestyle, but keep delaying. They can afford things, but still hesitate. Not because they lack money, but because they're not used to spending it. What most people don't realize is the mindset that helps you build money and the mindset that helps you use money are completely different. You spend years learning to save, be careful, delay gratification. Those habits are great. But here's the interesting part. When it's time to actually use your money, those same habits are still there. You still feel like spending is wrong. Keeping it is safer. Maybe I should wait a bit longer. And so, you keep delaying, not once, but over and over again. And the result? Your life slowly shrinks. Not because you can't afford more, but because you don't allow yourself to. And the most unfortunate part is, some things in life can't be postponed forever. Main ideas. Time and health don't wait. But most people spend like they always will. I've realized something very direct. Most people plan their money carefully, but they don't plan their ability to enjoy it. They keep thinking, I'll spend later. When things feel more certain, when I feel more comfortable. Sounds reasonable. But here's the truth. That right time rarely shows up the way they expect. For example, someone might be excited to travel, but they delay it for a few years to feel safer. By the time things feel stable, they don't have the same energy anymore. Someone wants to do something meaningful for themselves, but keeps prioritizing saving instead. And eventually, they lose interest. What most people don't realize is, money can be saved, but time cannot. Your health might be good today, but no one can guarantee it will stay that way. And when those things change, the way you experience life changes too. This creates a powerful paradox. You might have enough money at the right time, but no longer have the ability to enjoy it the way you once imagined, not because you did anything wrong, but because you waited too long. Conclusion: money doesn't fail because of bad math. It fails because people aren't spreadsheets. I've realized something that many people only understand in hindsight. Most financial plans aren't wrong. The numbers are right. The logic is right. The strategy is right. But here's the interesting part. That plan is designed for an ideal version of you, a version that's always calm, always consistent, always rational. But in reality, you'll feel anxious sometimes. You'll feel tired. You'll feel uncertain. What most people don't realize is money doesn't operate in a spreadsheet. It operates in your mind. And that is what really determines whether you're okay or not. It's not how much money you have. It's how you feel when you use it. It's not whether your plan is perfect. It's whether you can actually live with it comfortably. Because in the end, money isn't just about being correct. It's about supporting your life. If this resonates with you, take a moment to reflect on how you think about money. And if this helped you understand yourself a little better, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss future content on money psychology and financial behavior.